The Honest Garage Podcast, where real shop owners tell real shop stories.
Today on the Honest Garage Podcast, we're talking with a shop owner who literally built his business around second chances and rising from the ashes. Ryan Masterson is the owner of Phoenix Auto Repair in Colorado Springs, a full-service shop keeping local cars, trucks, and SUVs on the road with what they call rapid repairs done right. Ryan's story starts in his grandparents' backyard, turning wrenches on sand rails and dirt bikes, then hot rods in high school, and then his first quick lube job at 18. He's worked his way through just about every corner of this industry, from basic oil changes to big ticket transmission work and management roles. But what really defines Phoenix Auto Repair is what happened after things went off the rails. Ryan hit rock bottom, lost the job, the home, the relationships, then made the decision to ask for help, rebuild his life, and build a shop rooted in honesty, integrity, and service to others. That's why the name Phoenix isn't just a cool logo, it's a mission statement. He and his wife, Jen, have since turned Phoenix Auto Repair into a trusted local business, recognized for the way they serve their community and contribute to the economy in El Paso County. Today, we're going to dig into how Ryan rebuilt both his life and his shop, how those values of second chances show up in the way he leads his team and treats customers, and what other shop owners can learn from the systems and standards he's put in place. Ryan, welcome to the Honest Garage Podcast today. How are you, man?
I'm doing good.
That's great. Really appreciate you coming on the show today. Yeah. So with that open, obviously, big story. People can dig in and learn more on the Phoenix Auto website. But I want to give you a chance to take us back to before Phoenix Auto Repair. What did life look like for you? And in those early days, turning wrenches on the sand rails and hot rods, and what was it like when you first got started in the career? What inspired that decision?
For me, watching my uncles and my grandpa in my grandpa's backyard, helping them, whether that was getting them a beer or grabbing a wrench for them or what have you, it was just good to be a part of the guys growing up. And I really saw the satisfaction they got from repairing stuff. They would go from upset that they tore something up to the sense of accomplishment when they actually repaired the vehicle, whether it was their cars or the sand rails or the dirt bikes. I don't know, something about it just drew me in. And then, like you said, in high school, when I was 16, I bought my first car. It was a 78 Camaro. Me and my dad had to pull the subframe out, replaced the subframe, and built it from there. And I was hooked. My buddies all had hot rods. I mean, it started even before that when we were working on our bicycles. I just found I had a knack for fixing things. So yeah, that's where it started from.
That's great. And then what inspired that decision to get you started in the actual industry as a professional instead of as a hobby?
So I actually started at a GM parts department in Phoenix, and it just progressed from there. I was on the service parts counter, so I was responsible for getting the technicians their parts and getting them put on the tickets. But I found that I really enjoyed being out in the shop with the technicians more than I did sitting behind the desk. So that kind of grabbed me in. And to be honest, I was a knucklehead all throughout my teenage years. I spent a lot of time incarcerated as a teenager because of my run-ins with drugs and alcohol. And in the mid-90s, there wasn't a whole lot of opportunities for guys with an 8th grade education to make a decent living. And I found that I had a natural ability to work on cars. It's something that I enjoyed doing. I did it with my uncles, my dad, my friends in high school, and that just seemed to be the natural path through all that.
That's awesome, man. You're really open on the website and here with that answer about some of the hard spots in life and rebuilding. What was the moment where you finally said, something's got to change? How did that decision turn into you opening Phoenix Auto Repair and hanging your shingle out on your own?
Uh, that's a loaded question. I continued down that path for quite a long time. Into my mid 30s, I was married, had 3 kids, and my career was going well, but the rest of my life was in shambles from about 30 on. I had tried to quit and it just nothing really took. It was a harder deal than I thought it should have been. I let's see, 2013, I had ruined my career. I had ruined and rebuilt my career several times before then because I do have a talent. I believe it's God given. Once I get headed in the right direction, it's pretty easy for me to repair those things. But once I get headed down the wrong direction, I head down that path just as fast, if not faster. So I sobered up in 2014 and went on the rampage to repair my career one more time. At that time, I was doing heavy duty fleet, got involved in some bigger companies repairing their fleets. And my specialty was repairing fleets and repairing shops. I've been a part of multiple buyouts. So I would fix the mom and pop shop. They would sell to the big corporation. And guess who gets the hatchet first? All of middle management. That's been my career over the last 15 years before we opened. And after the last one, I went to work for a local trash company, some great guys, Dan and Darren Schrader, and we got their fleet headed in the right direction, and the right buyer came with the right number, and I can't fault them for that. But that was one more time down the road Ryan went. Some might say I have a big mouth, but I am very opinionated, and I'm very good at what I do. So I voice my opinions probably more than I should in those corporate settings. And I lost that job. That was 2020, I want to say, and actually it was right before Christmas 2020. It was a tough deal. And I went and found another job, another disheveled shop with a messed up fleet. And I went in there and cleared a spot for my box and started doing the things and just didn't have the passion for it anymore, I guess. I was tired of being run through the ringer every 5 years or so. And you pour your blood, sweat, and tears into this company. The owners get their big payday. And don't get me wrong, I made a lot of money. I did pretty well for myself in those runs. But I didn't know that I had it in me to fix another shop, and I could see the writing on the wall. They did end up selling, I think, 2 years ago. So I would have been right on the number for another trip down the road. I got a job offer to go back as a field service technician on heavy equipment, making more money than I had ever made in my entire career. And I just couldn't keep my mouth shut anymore.
It was time to go out and do things your way.
So I got COVID, April Fool's Day, 2021. I got COVID, got sent home. That was when everybody got quarantined. I was sitting in my bedroom quarantined. I came up with this brilliant plan to open a shop. Usually, as a recovering alcoholic and addict, anytime I have a good idea, I'm a little cautionary. So I run it by what I call my board of directors. That's a few trusted mentors that I have. And they all said, that's a great idea. So we made it past the first test. Now let's talk to Jen about this. And Jen told me, I've been telling you for 10 years that you needed to open your own shop. So it's about time that you listen to somebody. And so we were off by April 21st. Like I said, I'm like a locomotive when I get going. When I get my sights set on something, it happens. So April 21st, 2021, we filed with the Secretary of State. I got my finances in order. I had to keep the job with the guy I didn't want to work for anymore. So I had to keep my mouth shut. And the longer the days went on, the harder that got. We were looking for a building. We found a building that fell through. Then we found another building. That one fell through. The first building came back around, which was the one I really wanted anyways. My funding was about to come through and we hit the ground running. It was one of the scariest and craziest times in my life. But yeah, we wrote the check for our building and we took possession July 1st of 21 and we opened our doors August 1st.
That's awesome, man. You said something there about your board of directors and that trusted network around you. It just reminded me of a quote I heard a lot growing up, and a lot of our listeners might know that already. But it's, you show me your friends and I'll show you your future. And I think you've surrounded yourself with people from conversations we've had in the past where that quote holds true for you now with that trusted board of advisors you mentioned. So that's
Yeah,
awesome.
no, absolutely. And don't get it confused. Jen sits atop of that board. I may not always listen to her first, but she is, I mean, she's the angel. The amount of things that I put her through over the years that she stood by me through, that woman's a saint. But yeah, I have had to surround myself with other people that are successful in other ways.
That's a big part of what we're trying to do here with the show is get you to share some of this information and be one of those trusted advisors, maybe even without the relationship, but sharing this advice is just so valuable. Sharing your story so that people can relate with you. Really appreciate some of the tough topics you got into here at the beginning. I do want to really take a pivot and start talking about, you talk a lot about on the website and in past conversations about honesty, integrity, fairness, and you integrate that in how you run the shop. For other listeners, I'm really curious, the ones that feel stuck or out of alignment with their own values, what's a practical change that they can make this month to start turning that around? What's something that you would recommend for them?
I mean, the honesty and integrity is huge. We're blessed to have the customers that we have, but you have to be upfront with them. In our industry, we have such a bad reputation, and there's a lot of people in the industry that are good, that are trying to change that. But I got to be honest with you, like, our reputation is 100% earned. The stuff that I've seen in the 30 years in this industry, we earned that badge. So it's an uphill battle to get it back. But I think you start with being 100% honest with your customer, even if that means that you are not going to make that sale. I would rather lose a sale by telling a customer everything that is wrong with their vehicle and letting them make that educated decision of whether they're willing to spend that money on that car or truck or not. That's their decision, that's their money, but they need to see the whole picture. If somebody comes in for say they need brakes and we look at it and yeah, it needs front and rear brakes. We inspect 100% of the vehicles that come through our shop. If the frame is rotten and the engine's puking oil and the differential's making a bunch of noise, now you're talking about the difference between a $900 repair and $6,000 or $7,000 worth of repairs that are going to be needed in the near future. I would much rather tell my customer up front, this is what your vehicle needs. What would you like us to do? And have them not repair the vehicle, but start to earn a little bit of that trust back with the community. Because if we do it the other way around, like I've seen done in so many shops, where we're just going to sell you the $800 or $900 brake job, and then at the end, after we've already done the work, by the way, you need another $6,000 worth of work, I wouldn't have done the brakes. Then you're back in that, yeah, I knew these guys were shady. I knew, and I got to be able to sleep at night. I was not the greatest human being for a lot of years, and now I'm trying to rectify that. But the best way by far to build your reputation, which, by the way, money is a byproduct of how you run your business, in my opinion. Chasing, don't get me wrong, we need the money, we need the profit. Otherwise, we're not going to be here to serve our community. But if you run your business right, I believe that the money will take care of itself.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And for the listeners who are looking for something really practical, what I heard, Ryan, was do your DVIs first, your vehicle inspections first, before you complete the repair. and touch base with the customer before you do the work. And doing that alone is something that people can shift when they're performing the DVIs. And that'll help them earn that reputation and build trust with the customer. Is that right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And there's sometimes when we get a customer that most people in the industry, I don't want to say everybody, I don't want to put everybody in the box, but oh my God, this customer wants to wait for their car. Okay, that's fine. That's an opportunity to show the customer their vehicle, show them exactly what's going on with it. So we invite our customers out into the shop. If there's a problem, we're going to show you what the problem is. If we find a problem and you're not there, we're going to do the same thing, which you have a DVI. Here's the picture or the video of what's going on with your vehicle. If you would like to come down and we can take a look at this together and assess the situation together, that's also an option. I mean, it's just, if you're honest and upfront with your customers, that trust level gets escalated, right?
Absolutely. That's such a crucial point. People tend to do business with people they know and trust. That's the old adage. I think it comes from the book, The Go-Giver, for anybody that wants to go fact check me on that. But I think that it's really important to build that trust up front. And you can't build a good business on a bad reputation. We tell people that all the time, and it sounds like I'm hearing that echoed from you as well, which is fantastic. But with that in mind, as you're looking to grow your business, to get bigger and do things and have a bigger impact, where do you find that most shop owners are getting stuck when it comes to their ownership trajectory and career arc? And how did you break through that stage? And what advice would you give to people when they're hitting those kind of known points where they tend to get stuck?
So that's a great question, and it's multifaceted. We've had a ton of growth in the 5 years we've been in business, and we have plans for extended growth. So there's different stages of it. My last phase of growth over the last year and a half, I decided to drop my ego and stop thinking that I knew everything, which I also had to do in the very beginning. In the very beginning, I thought I could run the shop. I thought I could write the estimates and sell the work and do the work and be all the things to all the people. And the reality of it is, if you get drawn in too many different directions, you can't be very good at any of those things. So I had to hire qualified staff first and foremost. And I had to get people that were better at their job than I was. In my first phase of growth, we hired a technician who was better than I was. The next phase of growth was get me off the counter, right? So I had to get a solid service advisor in there. And that was some trial and error. That took a couple of years. I had some good service advisors along the way, but to get one that was better than me took some actual work. And that spawned another growth spurt. Advertising, that was a huge piece. We did well enough when it was 2 or 3 of us in the building, just off of word of mouth. But once you start getting 4 employees, that's a whole different beast that you got to feed. And we're tucked away. Customers don't see me. They don't drive by my shop. We have 20 cars a day that drive by our shop, and they all work on the street that our shop's on. Advertising was a huge piece. And like I said, about a year and a half ago, we joined a coaching firm because I didn't know how to get us to the next level. And everybody had told me our growth was on such a rapid rate that everybody told me, you can't continue to grow like that. It's going to break. And I finally found somebody that said, no, you can grow that way. It's tough, but this is how you do it.
So you touched on something there early on that I really want to circle back on about you can't do it on your own. And you talked about building the team around you. And I really wanted to get more on that about how are you building a culture that's helping you keep good people, technicians, service writers, and everything in between. That how are you keeping them long term? How are you finding them? How are you building the culture around the shop? And what are you doing that really makes you guys stand out?
One thing that I've found to be true across the board, no matter who I worked for, was as long as you are taking care of your employees, they will in turn do the right thing with my customers. the money will circle back and it'll take care of itself. We offer top-notch benefits. We've got Kaiser. We've got one of the best medical plans that you can get. And does it cost a lot of money? Absolutely. Is it worth it? Every penny. I'd do it again in a heartbeat, even when we didn't have the money. And that was born out of necessity, right? Because I got a family of my own. So I had to get the benefits. And the other side of that is if you got sick employees, they're not coming to work. If they don't have a way to take care of themselves, they're not coming to work. Second thing, I tell guys all the time that ask me, how do I keep my employees? I pay them extremely well. There is only a couple of shops in this town that can compete with what I pay my employees. From the bottom guys to the top guys, it doesn't matter. My GSs make more, my master technicians make more, my service advisors make more, and my service managers make more. And the way I know that is our industry is pretty small. We may calculate as a big city as far as population, but my little corner of it's pretty small. And once people start hearing that, they seek you out.
That's fantastic. When you can turn what you're doing with your current team into recruiting efforts to bring the best to you, your team becomes your own word of mouth to help you recruit on stuff. And I think that's a piece that is overlooked a lot of times. There are a lot of recruiters in this industry, and a lot of shops will invest big money into a lot of recruiters in this industry. But it sounds like what you're saying is if you just treat your people right and are open and transparent with them, that you can save that money on recruiters and use it to pay your team. That's fantastic,
absolutely.
man. That's great. I love that. So if you could go back and give brand new first year owner Phoenix Auto Care, Ryan Masterson, some advice, what would you tell yourself in the first year of owning a shop to do differently?
Don't try to do everything.
Yeah. How does the saying go? If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together, I think is how that saying goes.
That sounds about right.
And it sounds like you're building something where you're trying to take something to make it go far and fast. So you need a lot of people to help move that mission forward.
Yep, absolutely.
That's great, man. Obviously, as the owner of Honest Mechanic Marketing here, I've got to throw in one final question here that we ask everybody on the show. I want to find out, what does honest mechanic mean to you? What does it mean to be an honest mechanic or an honest shop owner in this industry?
How would you treat your grandmother if she was your customer?
That's great. I can imagine that most people probably don't take that time to think about it. And can you take that a step further for me? How would you treat your grandmother? I love where my brain took that, but I don't know if everybody will be in the same spot as I am, and I want to make sure we expand on that a little bit.
For me, my grandmother, God rest her soul, was one of my favorite people on the planet. But I want to treat her with honesty, respect, and dignity. If I wouldn't tell my grandmother that her car needs this, then why am I going to tell Johnny from down the street that his car needs this? That's just how we operate. And my guys all know this is how we operate. If you're not going to do it for your own family members, then don't do it to my customers, because they deserve that. And don't take this the wrong way. I'm a capitalist 100%. That's why I'm in business for myself. But plenty of broken stuff out there that's legitimately broken. You don't need to sell stuff that vehicles don't need. You don't need to do high pressure sales. I've sold more to my customers by telling them, no, we can probably wait 6-8 months on this, or we can wait till your next oil change. And then they call back while you're doing the other repair that they did approve, and they say, you know what, you got my card, just go ahead and take care of it. And to me, that's huge. I've always wanted my grandmother to be proud of me for the man that I am. And I feel it took me a long time to get there, but I finally am that man. And
I think she'd absolutely be proud of the man you are now, the way you're treating your customers. And I think she'd be very proud of the willingness to share your story and to continue to try to help others avoid some of the same mistakes or some of the same pitfalls or traps that you had in your past as well. And I think that's a really cool thing to be here and to know that you're not done yet. And I guess one final parting question that comes to my mind is what's next for this industry and for Phoenix Auto Care in particular?
The industry, that's a loaded question, isn't it?
I can't let you get out of here without one hot take.
The one constant in our industry is change. So we need to, as an industry, we need to try to repair our reputation. And as a successful business owner, I'm just going to go ahead and say it. Like, you can do both. You can make money and be honest in this industry. It's crazy, but you can. As far as for Phoenix Auto Repair, our plan's always been 3 to 5 stores over 15 to 20 years. We're 5 years in. I think we're probably 2026, probably second half of 2026, we're going to start looking for another location. We finally got our west side dialed pretty well in. So we're going to see if we can branch out into the rest of the community.
That's fantastic, man. I'm really excited to see what you have coming up next. And for anybody who wants to maybe connect with you after this show or just stay up to date on what it is that you guys are doing, what's the best way for them to get in contact with you, blasting your personal cell phone out there for the entire world to see? How do you recommend that people stay in contact with you when you're not here talking to me on the podcast?
My email is ryan.phoenixautorepair@gmail.com. You can reach out through the website. There's a link there. If you have any questions, you can call the shop, 719-473-0900. They are pretty good at screening my phone calls. So email might be the best way. You can reach out to me on either our business or my personal Facebook page. Phoenix Auto Repair is the business page. Ryan Masterson, obviously, is my personal page. I don't go on there a ton anymore. I have found that as of late, I've killed that, deleted it from my phone. So I'm not constantly on there. I go on there maybe an hour a week now, which has been huge for me. Or just stop by the shop. If you're in town, swing by. We're over on the west side off of 21st Street in Cimarron.
That's awesome, man. Really appreciate you being willing to share that contact info and maybe help answer some questions for people who might be listening to this. It really goes to what we're trying to do here with the Honest Garage podcast. And I want to really thank you for taking the time to help share your story about how you're helping in the community, how you're growing your team, and talk about all the stuff we don't talk about very often in this industry. And that's working on the business and not necessarily in the business, and just ultimately helping us shape the industry that we all love as listeners, as podcast guests, and as other people in the industry that really support it. I really appreciate you taking the time today, Ryan. Is there any final parting words or anything you want to say before we sign off here today?
No, I appreciate you having me on here. And I'm here for anybody, not just in the Colorado Springs community. But if you're struggling with something out there, whether that's in your personal life or in your business life, there is plenty of people that are out there willing to help for fun and for free. Just reach out. That's the best. I held things in for so many years, and I've even done it with my business where I didn't want to be honest because that was icky and my ego didn't let people know where I was at. But it was only until in both my personal and business life that I was willing to let people know exactly where I was at and be honest with that the real change started to happen in my life.
That's awesome. That's excellent final parting advice for everybody. Thanks again, Ryan, for coming on the Honest Garage podcast. It's been great. For all those out there listening, if you want to keep listening and find us again, tune in on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, on YouTube. Go to the honestmechanicmarketing.com and click on the podcast link at the top, and it'll take you to the podcast page here where you can really connect with us at the Honest Garage podcast. And we'd love to tell your story as well. Thanks for listening, and everybody have a great day.
People come into my shop and they're talking about loose hub bearings or tie rod ends and stuff like that. I have a desire to see that car get fixed, even if it's not at my shop.
I think there's a lot of stuff that they can learn from your story, from your experience, from your approach, and take some of this small town lifestyle, small town mentality, and apply it to their shops in any city of any size to build their community.
Why would they go anywhere else? And I
Right.
don't do all of those things to ensure I'm getting that future business. I do all of those things because I'm called to love on my community.